And you actually remember you asked me not to appear for the second time for National School of Drama because again I was rejected.
Who, me? No.
You said no, don't go for it. Don't go for it, Manoj. Don't go for it. Stay here. Stay with me. जो बीत गई सो बात गई, जीवन में एक सितारा था, माना वो बेहद प्यारा था, वो टूट गया तो टूट गया। अंबर के तारों को देखो, जाने कितने तारे छूटे, जाने कितने तारे टूटे, जो छूट गए फिर कहाँ मिले, पर बोलो टूटे तारों पर कब अंबर शोक मनाता है, जो बीत गई सो बात गई।
Hello, good evening. It is evening time here in Dharamshala, as well as in Mumbai, where sits Mr. Manoj Bajpayee. I'm sure already known to most of you, known to me for a very long time. He's not as old as I am, fortunately for him, but we've known each other a long time. And what interests me today, the reason to have Manoj talking with us, is to explore this subject of education. That might sound a little boring, but hopefully it won't be, in the way we are not speaking academically, but we're speaking out of the experience of our own lives, as actors tend to do, actually. So I'm going to begin by welcoming Manoj. Manoj, would you like to say hi?
Hi, namaskar. Hello.
Okay. And it's pretty well known that you are from a state in India called Bihar.
Right,
and
buddy.
from a very rural area. There are big cities in Bihar, Patna, the capital, for example, but you are from a very rural area in Bihar. So I would like to ask you, what are your recollections of your own schooling? First of all, your primary schooling in your village.
Okay, buddy. Uh, Starting with my childhood time, there was one teacher. We used to call him Master Sahib, uh, and he used to stay with our family, and he was a government servant. And there was a government. It was a very small school. Uh, to go to that school, we had to cross a river, and mostly that Master Ji, since he was staying with us, he used to carry us, he used to take us on his bicycle to the school. And my memory says that the school was of hashed roof, and there used to be one room, and for each child there used to be one wooden uh, what do you call, a table, small table, that foldable, that used to fold, and then used
Uh-huh.
to fold back, and that used to be your table.
Yeah.
And to sit, we used to have this what you call, the rug that used, and one rug was in our, assigned to each one of us.
Huh.
We used to, we call it uh, goni in Mumbai. I don't know what
Uh-huh.
they call it in English. uh, So that used to be the atmosphere, and the Master Sahib used to sit right in the front on a wooden platform. You call it takhat in Hindi or Urdu. And from there, he used to teach all of us. So that's the memory. And for each mistake, we used to get around 5 canes, 4 canes, depending on the the seriousness of the mistakes. Yeah.
And where
So
did they
that
land?
they landed right on our palms. So
I
very,
see.
yeah,
It
that
could
is
be
that.
worse. It could be worse.
Yeah. So
How many of
yes,
you were in this room, in this hut?
what I can recollect is what not more than, it was between 15 or 20, not more than that.
And of different
And
ages?
different ages, different class. Uh, so I was a child of a lower middle class farmer who could afford a lot many things more than the fathers of the children who were studying with me. So and the most brilliant of the lot was Ramchandar. I still remember him because I used to feel so envious of his intelligence, of his academic brilliance. You know, he was, and his father was not coming from a good economic background. So in the morning he used to cut grass, feed his cattle. Then he used to come to the class. So and not as privileged as Manoj Bajpayee, whose mother or father, you know, they were there to take care of him with every demand or tantrum. So yes, that's the memory that I have of my class.
What time did school start?
Early morning, Barry. It was 8 o'clock. The school started at 8 o'clock,
So
and we used
Ramchandra
to.
would have been up at about 5 o'clock.
I mean, not beyond 6 o'clock, definitely.
Yeah.
So, and he used to come to school, and he was academically so brilliant that I still remember his name. Or maybe because somewhere I felt that he was far better than all of us, especially me, because and that's how I remembered his name, and that's how I always tried uh, connecting with him whenever I went back to the village.
What happened to him eventually? Do you know?
Oh yes, I mean the last I knew about him was that he was doing quite well for himself. He was teaching, and he was taking tuitions, earning quite a lot of money for himself, for his family, and he became quite well off that way, much more well off than he could imagine at that age of his. But I was
Yeah.
very happy, and also for that reason, I always wanted to inquire about him as to what he's doing. So lucky for him that he continued with his studies. He finished his college, and he was into teaching. He had too many students in the district towns.
Too many is
Yeah.
how many?
Yeah, I mean, the most of us, the numbers of children like me, students like me, were too many. The numbers of Ramchandar is always very less. Very.
I get you. All right. What subjects did you have in school? Do you remember?
um, all, I mean, Hindi, English was not something which was there.
No?
Uh, in the name of English, we were only learning ABCD, and
Yeah.
that's all. And mathematics was always there. Mathematics is something which even I see my daughter struggling with. So I find it no difference. So yeah, 4 5 subjects were there, and the class used to get over by 4:30, Barry. So it used to go
Wow. It's a
long, very.
long
It's a long
day. Yeah.
long day, and there used to be a break for lunch. Mostly my mother used to cook and pack for both of us, for me and the teacher. And sometimes there used to be a relative's house which was close by, so I used to go there and and eat my lunch with them. So that's how the day went by, every
Yeah.
day. Yeah, and then coming back, all the students have a free time after the school. Not me. Once I'm back, after eating and getting fresh, you again back with Masterji, taking extra classes, since he was
Oh my
studying
goodness.
there.
Wow.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was staying with us, so we had no free time.
No escape.
No escape at all.
Was your father insistent? Was your father strong on education? Was he sort
he
of
he kind of somewhere he promised to himself that he was a very mild guy, Barry, very polite guy. My household was completely dictated by my mother. So uh, he was everything that a typical man was. or is even in this modern society. He
Mm.
was a very polite man, very mild man. All he wanted us to achieve is the graduation and nothing else. That was the promise he made to himself, that all his children, six of us were there, and he wanted all his children to be no less than a graduate. And those days, being a graduate used to be quite a lot for everyone, because most of the students used to flunk out. They used to withdraw themselves from the schools
Yes.
and do something
Yeah.
else because of the economic situations.
Was that because what they had to learn in school was not relevant to them, or they found it boring?
Oh
What
yes,
were
I
the
mean,
reasons?
see, everything was targeted towards medical or engineering those days, uh,
Mm.
um, or, or becoming a bank servant, or becoming or or going or competing for UPSC, and nothing more than that. But mostly it was more focused on medical and engineering, nothing less than that. So anybody becoming a doctor in the area used to be a big thing. I still remember my cousin brother uh, passing out of medical college and becoming an MBBS was a big thing. It was a celebration, and nobody knew his name, actual name. Everybody used to call him Doctor Saab. So you can imagine uh, the that's how much the education meant to everyone.
Mm.
If you are not that good, if you are really not doing that great, and if you have some piece of land, then you are back to plowing and cultivating and feeding your family and getting married early and having children early. So that used to be the cycle of life,
Mm.
which I see,
Right.
which I see is still quite relevant, which I still see very prevalent in that society.
For the
Uh,
majority of people, yeah,
for the
it doesn't
majority of people,
change.
it doesn't
Yeah.
change because uh, if you can, and you try to stick to your piece of land and not venturing out at all.
Mm. What was your favorite subject? Did you have a favorite subject, or?
Oh yes, I somehow, what gave my father a false idea that I used to like biology. So he kind of started getting ambitious about me. He thought that this one is
Uh,
going to go very far and become a doctor.
another Dr. Saab.
Another doctor, sir. So and then but I always wanted to become an actor, Barry. Since the time I started watching films with my parents, they used to take me, and they were quite a fan of Hindi films. So whenever we visited the district town, they used to watch as many films as possible, and we used to tag along because we were very little. So the earlier memories of the films were it's still very strong in my mind, that I used to be enamored and mesmerized by what was happening on the screen, and
Yes, I'm sure. Yeah.
and uh, and I never wanted that cinema or that film to get over. I used to be so much so engrossed into it, and it was very early in my mind. There was a resolve which came in, that this is exactly I want to do. So for me, the education that I was doing became very secondary since very early,
But
since very
did
early
it?
of childhood.
Did the idea of becoming a film actor, was that not very remote? Was that
Oh
an
yeah.
impossible dream?
Oh yeah. I mean, you just nailed it right. It was something which was completely looked down upon. Though each and everyone watched films, and that used to be primary source of entertainment, and people used to talk about films, talk about the story, the performances, the stars. But me blurting out and telling them about a dream was something I found completely impossible. So I had to keep mum about my dream. I had to keep my mouth shut uh, till I really went for uh, what do you call, a full-time theater activity after I passed out from Ramjas College, Delhi University. That was the time I wrote a letter to my father saying that I want to become an actor and
Really,
all.
really,
Yeah, yes, yes,
so
so
many
many
years down the
yeah,
line.
down the line. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I used to be quite.
At school in your village, there was no drama. There was no involvement with drama, folk theatre, or anything like that.
I mean, but that was one thing which always kind of saddened me all throughout when I was doing my education. I was looking for some avenues where I could go and just rehearse and do my thing, do what I wanted to do. There was not even a single group. There was not even a single in the name of theater or folk theater, anything. There was no exposure at all. So all I could do in my high school when I was in the boarding, uh, there used to be skits or the for the annual function, and
Uh-huh.
in all of those, if there are 10 items, I used to be in five. I used to be so active because that was the only time I could find myself of some use.
So
And
sorry, you shifted from your village to go to high school
so
somewhere else.
I shifted from my village to go to a middle school.
Uh-huh.
That I still remember the name. The Saint Stanislaus Mission Middle School was the name, and but it didn't have a boarding then. So there was a teacher, Mr. Ignatius. He was my father's friend, and he used to run a lodge for children, for the school children who were coming from outside. So I was put up in that lodge for 4 years, and that was that for that.
Boarding, more or less boarding. You'd say you went into boarding.
I mean, you could call it a boarding. I mean, boarding means a hostel, proper hostel, but it was a small house where 20 or 25 of us were there. Okay, the discipline was the same. There was a wake up time, there was a study time, and all of us were supposed to eat together and then sleep in a dormitory kind of a situation. So in
Uh-huh.
one room, if you have 6 or 7 platforms where 6 and 7 children are sleeping. uh, so those days used to be quite horrendous for me. That was something uh, like a cage. It was like a cage kind of a situation, and very dark house, with all of us. um, so that was those 4 years, Barry. I would say that if I could wipe it out completely of my life. That
Really,
was,
that bad?
yes, it
That
was
bad?
that bad. It was that bad because when I was spending time with Salam Balak children, I used to find myself. I used to see myself in them so much. I could relate so much to them because. Uh, their situation, I yes, definitely I can't compare myself, but somewhere I could understand uh, their plight, where they are coming from.
We'll come to that later.
Yeah,
Let's not rush ahead.
right.
Uh, but somehow you managed to complete school, and
And then I went
uh,
to in seventh standard I went to high school, which was a big school. It was a very big school with proper dormitories and proper hostel that you call the boarding school that you call it. It was spread in, say, 10 acres or 20 acres, and
oh,
yes, you have four football field, and then you have a cricket field, and you are playing hockey, then you're playing basketball, all of that in the medium in our area. But it was fantastic. You have fathers and brothers roaming around and keeping in check on
Acha, this
us.
was still a Jesuit
Yeah,
institution, was it?
it was Jesuits, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And your theater involvement began there.
No, my theater, the first performance that happened in the middle school itself, in the fifth standard, when I was chosen randomly by my class teacher to recite a poem um, to represent the class in the elocution contest. Okay, and which was a great deal in all of these Jesuits. And even this middle school was a Catholic school, so. So for elocution contest, I was chosen to represent the class, and I started preparing for it and started taking notes from all the winners of the last year. And that's how it all started. When I recited the poem, the applause, the adulation, all of it, was so electric. So
What was the poem? Do you remember?
I remember, I still remember, it was written by late Shri Harivansh Rai Bachchan ji, the father of Mr. Amitabh Bachchan.
Yeah.
जो बीत गई सो बात गई, जीवन में एक सितारा था, माना वो बेहद प्यारा था, वो टूट गया तो टूट गया, अंबर के तारों को देखो, जाने कितने तारे छूटे, जाने कितने तारे टूटे, जो छूट गए फिर कहाँ मिले, पर बोलो टूटे तारों पर कब अंबर शोक मनाता है, जो बीत गई सो बात गई.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
that I
that's like from age, how old were you? 10, 11,
nine
or something?
nine I
9.
think 9 or 10. I think my daughter's age. I still five. I find her uh, too juvenile when it comes to me. Me when I was 9 or 10, I was actually very, also because because of the situation, because of the family background that I was coming from, the situation that I was in. I was, one had to survive, one had to learn to survive in that lodge, one had to learn to survive in a family where you have so many siblings. So yes, I was far more mature than my daughter.
Yeah. Like being in the army somewhat.
Oh yes, oh yes, you're very right.
Teaches you to be more independent.
Yes.
Okay. So and then in this other school, after 5 years of age, you went to this other Jesuit school with the hostel and the beautiful grounds.
Yes.
Played a lot of sports, but
Oh yes.
was theater? I mean, was drama or theater a subject or an activity in the school?
Not at all, Barry.
No.
Again, the no annual functions used to give us that opportunity to, you know, take out, whatever passion you had for theater or for drama. There were some very good talents, Barry. I mean, they all went into different
There
areas.
always are. There always are.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, and so we used to really prepare very passionately for each and every skit, and getting applause for it. I still visit my school whenever I go there, and now they have a uh, uh, very good acoustic, in the theater room. And I just visit the school to really relive that memory of how I started, because the elocution contest, the audience used to be bigger in this high school. uh, there used to be 45 minutes of a small play that we used to stage for the annual function.
Did you
uh,
make these plays yourself, or were they
mostly
scripted?
mostly we used
Mostly.
to mostly we used to make these plays, or we used to stage some of these what you call the brief plays which were part of our subjects in Hindi. Okay, so
Which were there in the textbooks.
which was there in the textbook. Yeah. So
Yeah.
those, or if even if it was there in the textbook of say different class, we used to take it from there, and we used to, whatever however we could do, we used to put in all our intelligence and passion into it. We used to stage it, sourcing all the properties, trying to play with the lights as much as possible. And uh, so yeah, we had to be loud because the hall used to be filled with noisy children, so
Yeah.
so these
Throwing
are the,
things as
yeah.
well, possibly.
Yes.
Did they used to throw things?
Oh no, 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 because as you know, the Jesuit
Not
schools, they are so strict. They are so heavy on discipline.
the
So
most strict. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I know. I got the shock of my life when I went to IIT and directed a play in Delhi. And there the students were not only throwing jibes and making cracking jokes, but throwing things at the actors on the stage. IIT, believe it or not.
IIT,
Yeah,
IIT, yeah.
terrible experience.